Hello, folks. Jonathan Milam here. I hope you're having a great day. I've got a collection of mutes here, four of them. I've got a solo bucket mute, a Humes and Berg cup mute. Then I've got a JoRal wah-wah. And I've got another H&B kind of wah-wah type, although it's different. Then two practice mutes, a nice Tom Crown mute, and the mute that I've traveled all over the world with is a Wallace Studio practice mute. Two practice mutes, then four general mutes. Through the years, I've had several mutes. Not that I use them that much. Liked some real well, got some in that I thought were a little better. Over the years, these are the ones that I've wound up with that I think are the most impressive. And going to be demoing these with a Olds Super cornet and a GR number 3 cornet mouthpiece. I'll play the simple song that I'm going to play throughout all of these mutes first, and then we'll put the mute in to show you the difference. Nice, simple chorus. Going to go first with the solo mute, show you a couple of options on this mute. First of all, this is the closed position, then we'll play it open. Does make a little bit of difference. So the solo bucket mute. That's the closed position. We'll open it up and see how it goes, and we'll turn off the voice mic this time. And again, we'll close it and turn off the speaking mic this time. I'll put a link to the solo web page down there so we don't have to spell it. It's just like soul, S-O-U-L, with an O on the end, but we'll put a link down there for you. Now the next is an old mute. It's the H&B cup mute, but generally this mute is scalloped in this area. Was watching a video one time of a guy that said, no, you do not want your H&B mute to be scalloped. He said an old, what was it, commercial trumpeter in New York told him, file that thing down, and then work to get it very close to the bell of your horn, and that's the sound you want with this H&B mute. Okay, very interesting. And the file that I used had to go to the hardware store and get a bastard file. That's what they call them. That's what I'm calling it. Okay, this is a JoRal mute. I used to have an H&B Swiss-wah, very large doo-wah mute. And it's very funny, but the cork that was on that Swiss-wah, which is an excellent piece, seemed like it might have been rubber. Anyway, this is a very gritty cork, and it gave a little more of a metallic buzz, which I liked. A lot of trumpet players, if you're playing with a bunch of people around you and you've got a mute on, you still want to be able to hear yourself a little bit. I thought this JoRal did a very nice job. Love the tight cork they've got on there. Now, I don't get much out of these mutes when they're all the way in. Here's what it sounds like. I do like it better when the mute is pulled out the cylinder is pulled out just a little bit at least. And of course, the old story, there's a guy on Trumpet Herald that wrote in that said, we're using wah-wah mutes. He said, but the lead trumpeter is playing so quiet, I can't match how quiet he is. And someone wrote in short order and said, did he remove the stem all the way? And he wrote back the next week and said, he did have the stem out. And this is what you get then, a very soft sound. It is pretty, isn't it? Okay, now the next mute that I've got is similar, but was playing, met a friend. In fact, I'm a flight attendant, so I was traveling and overnighting, I think, in Greensport, North Carolina. A friend of mine, Greg, from Charlotte, came over, and he had one of these mutes. Thought it was the weirdest looking thing, and he said, this is the closest I can get to the old trumpet sound of mute. H&B, Humes and Berg, they call this their wah-wah do-all. It's the wah-wah do-all mute. And very interesting. Now, I've got two of these. This one is relatively heavy. The other one is extremely heavy. Very heavy. But interesting, this is definitely a more metal. The other one is a metal ceramic. The other one feels like it's all metal. I do like the Wah Wah Do-All by H&B. Pull the stem out a little further. and with the stem removed. Now this one, you might notice, has got quite the ding on the top. So much for being an oval. And some of us on a thread were talking about mutes, and I said, I'm not concerned about the mute, I'm concerned about the dents. That's how you judge a mute. An undented mute is an unloved mute. Okay, the Wah Wah Do All by Humes and Berg with the stem all the way out. Okay, I mentioned a few minutes ago I'm a flight attendant. I'm on the road usually 4 or 5 days a week, and I live with a practice mute in my instrument. That's why I don't probably play a whole lot of them when I get home. I have plenty on the road. This is one of the larger mutes. Just got some very tiny little air holes up around the top ridge, as you can see, and does not seem to be bad for back pressure. And this is a tom crown. Looks very much like a bucket mute, but practice mute. Now, how loud is it without the practice mute? With the practice mute back in. To my way of thinking, the best practice mute that I've ever seen. It is a Wallace. I think they call this one their studio practice mute. Now, when they first came out with it, they did not have enough padding around here, but on their more recent editions, as I see on the internet, and I can put up a link as well, they have added more padding. But what you can do, if your mutes run out of padding, you can get a bicycle inner tube, cut off about a half-inch strip. One man said use mountain bike inner tube because it's very thick. When I went to go buy some, they didn't have any mountain bike inner tube, so I just bought the extra thick inner tube, cut it in about 1/8 of an inch, and I've got one layer already on there, and tends to beef up a cork if they are a little too thin. If you've got a wild thing, I think the Schilke Handcraft is a very big bell. If you've got a big belled horn and need a little bit more, that is always an option. Now, the nice thing about this, it has its own little stem. I think they call this a resistor. And for very quiet, you can put this here. My son and I have watched football, basketball games while I'm practicing on the practice mute next to it. Of course, he's a little more understanding than some people, granted. I played in hotels, well, I don't want to say the world over, but just about. I've had it in Mexico, I've had it in Africa, I've had it in Japan, I've had it in South Korea, Hong Kong, lots of places in Europe, all over the United States. One afternoon I was in a hotel, and the captain was in a room next door, and she, fine lady captain, said, I've got to make a phone call, then let's go out and eat. It was mid-afternoon, we were going to run out together. And I said, great, great. Middle of the afternoon, extremely quiet in the hotel, no noise to speak of. And I thought, I'll practice my trumpet in the room right next to her with this practice mute on and see if she heard me. So we were walking to supper a few minutes later, and I said, did you hear me practicing the trumpet? And she said, no, you weren't practicing the trumpet. And I said, well, I've got a very good mute. It's extremely efficient, and my choice for practice mutes of all that I've had. I'll show you, though, what it sounds like first with the resistor in, then with the resistor out. And resistance is not bad with either one of these. And with the resistor out, it gets a little louder, but not bad at all. And then I feel no back pressure at all. And again with the resistor in. Okay, that's me and the mutes. Hope you've enjoyed this. Comments, suggestions, thoughts, ideas, we're open to everything. If you'd like to write down if we have any horns for sale, there'll also be a link to the location for that. And we'll try and put a link to at least the Wallace mute and the solo mutes. The rest of them, Tom Crown, JoRal, H&B, Humes and Berg, I think you can probably find those yourself. None of these are new. It galls me to have to pay new prices. Oh, that's not true. I did have to pay for this solo mute new. But most of these are easily available. TrumpetHerald.com's got a great marketplace. eBay, Reverb, great places to buy stuff and not break the bank. As we say in closing, folks, take care of yourself and someone near you.